The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff or management of Visionary Related Entertainment.
Aloha and welcome to Maui Nonprofit Notes, where each week you will find us talking story with Maui's nonprofit executive directors and staff to find out how they're working to support those with needs within our community. Maui Nonprofit Notes is generously sponsored by Pacific Source. If you're building or remodeling a home, please stop by Pacific Source's Cabinet and Appliance Showroom located in the Waikapu Bayshard. I'm Susie Tiemann, Executive Director of Lokahi Pacific, and your host for Maui Nonprofit Notes. For those of you who may be listening to this show for the first time, each week during this hour we share some of the experiences of our nonprofit agencies and just how they're changing lives, changing communities, and creating miracles of hope for those with needs. Today we're going to start off with some folks from Kahaleakaʻolu who, and that's really changing lives in a big way. That's our Homeless Resource Center, and, well, it's actually two different facilities, right? And we're going to be talking with Aaron Lowenthal, who's the CEO, and Vanita O'Neill, who's the Housing Program Director. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Hi there. So who wants to start us off? Aaron, you want to give us a kind of a jump start?
Sure, I would be happy to. So I have been in this position for over a year, and Vanita O'Neill, my housing program director, has really been at the forefront of a lot of the programming changes we've made. We are moving from a more punitive model to one that is more re-energizing and is really building people's confidence and skills back up so they can reintegrate into the community more smoothly and be successful and lessen the amount of recidivism that we see. So I'll have her speak a little bit more about the program that we offer as it relates to the Homeless Resource Center. And then a little bit later, I can share more about what's happening with Halemakana Owaiale, which is our affordable housing arm.
Okay.
Okay.
Vanita, you're on.
Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
I am great, thank you.
How long have you been at over there?
Just over a year. I started just after our CEO, Aaron, began as well. So I'm fairly new to this whole Hawaii homelessness situation.
And do you come from a background with working with homeless?
I do, yes. So my background is more so in human services.
Okay.
So I work with people who not just are homeless, but just are in high risk or high need situations.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Well, I know when we first had Aaron on, I think I said something about, well, how's it feel being in a position now for a couple of months? And she says, I think it's been 10 days. Or something like that, wasn't it? It was like, oh my,
right.
I was thinking back from when I first heard she was going to take the job, right?
Yeah, 1 year feels like 10 years in this field.
Oh, come on. Didn't it fly by?
It did and it didn't.
It did, but it weighs heavy.
Right.
Because it's a hard job, hard task. So in the housing side, now, are you responsible for seeing that the people who come in have a place or organizing? What do you do?
So ultimately, my job is to see that the client's overall welfare is taken care of, as well as preparing the case managers to meet the needs of the clients. Ultimately, everyone's goal is moving towards self-sufficiency. So we've tried to develop a program in a way that is solution-focused and focused on our clients' strengths so that we can prepare them for when they reintegrate back into the community. Overall, some of the greatest things that we've been able to overcome, as Aaron has mentioned, we've changed our model and our focus, helping our clients, our staff to be more prepared to deal with clients' needs where they are. So meeting them where they are has been a huge shift in the way that we integrate ourselves into this whole process, as opposed to any other way of doing that. We've done a lot of training to help our staff with just being more empathetic towards the needs of the clients. And we've elicited a lot of feedback from our homeless population to help so that we can hear, what are your needs? What do when you come in and you're in a situation like this, ultimately you are probably in a crisis mode. So, meeting them where they are has been huge for the case managers to try to understand what someone in this situation has to come to, just to even walk through our doors.
Right.
And then once they're there, what
Right.
do we do from this point on?
So you've kind of come from a one-size-fits-all to what do you need,
Yeah.
which should take them through the system quicker, I would think, because you're addressing their specific issues.
I think it means more. The process
Okay.
is now, it's more meaningful as opposed to a status quo or a box that needs to be checked. It's individualized, so we can hear from John or Joe or Mary, as opposed to a large group of homeless people.
20 people.
Yeah, so we're hearing individually what the needs are.
Right. That sounds great. Now, did that require additional staffing, or were you able to kind of reorganize the staff and your caseworkers and so forth to
Well, I
go this
think
route?
with the support of Erin and her vision, I think she has allowed me the freedom to be able to integrate some of my own training as a social worker, having worked in various different states with different populations, primarily just focusing on training. So training our current case managers on the needs of our clients. What do they need, and how do we meet their needs?
Right.
And
What, just as an off-the-cuff question,
Sure.
what's the number one need?
I think people want stability. They want to know that they're not being judged, and that things move in a forward direction from here. We're not going to go down. We're going to go up. And so I like to call us the last house on the block. So we are, we're the last house on the block. So we're moving up from here.
I see.
And our clients are encouraged.
It's a theme song from a show, isn't it? Moving on up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's great though. That's kind of the point. But and everybody got there in a different way.
Yes.
I mean, it's not that just you wake up one day and there you
Right.
are. And so with the different approaches for the different families, families or individuals as they might be. Now, do you work with others that are not housed in your facility?
So we move our clients through our process. So we begin in an emergency housing phase.
Okay.
And that is a free housing and 3 meals a day dormitory shelter that all of our clients would stay in when they initially enter into our program. As they complete the emergency housing program, they would then transition into the transitional housing program, where clients are put on an action plan to be able to meet their needs at that point, to move them towards permanent housing. At that time, that's when we begin to discuss what are your options, what does your financial situation look like, are you able to work, if not, what are some of the options that are available to you now, and then we transition them on to a more permanent housing solution and work towards that. And each person has up to 2 years in order to resolve that problem in their lives.
I see. So do some people come into your system working?
Oh, many do. And whether that's a requirement out of from their probation officer, or whether it's just a situation where maybe families coming in together and maybe just the father works, whether it's a cultural thing and in a certain culture, maybe just the breadwinner is the father. We always try to work with what we're given at the time and start from there. And that's where that's when we're able to move the clients towards more permanent housing. And it takes time. It just takes time. But ultimately, that is the goal, is to help them find permanent housing.
And to keep the family together.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that's everybody tells me that's critical.
Yes.
The last thing you want to ever do is have to take the children and split them up amongst
no.
foster families or whatever, while mom and dad are getting their act together, so to speak.
Right.
You're working with the whole entity.
Absolutely. Yeah, our program actually is geared towards it's family focused. It's really not a program where we would make a decision to separate a family. Families come to us as a means for help. So we're probably where a family would come to before going into like a child protective services
Right.
type of a program. So yeah, we really focus on the parents, the family as a whole and the needs that they have when they come into our program, and then we move from there.
And the needs can be anything from that housing to clothing to food to...
Yes. Oftentimes there's the priorities can be a medical need. It can be a chemical dependency need. It can be just a emotional need where there's mental health involved, or just I lost my job, and I can't afford my rent. So we see a large array of people in our shelter, and ultimately these people all just want to get back on their feet. They just want stability.
Does it take like one final something to happen to motivate them to come see you? Okay, so maybe they lost their job and they lost their house because they can't pay the rent. They've been living in the car, kind of thing. What is it that finally hits them that says you got to do something?
You know what? Everyone is different. I do believe that there is a point where people come to the point where they say today is the day. I'm going to get some help today, and ultimately it comes down to our availability. As a shelter, we have limited space,
right?
And the people who want the help usually reach out for the help in time, and then at that point we're able to say, okay, yes, we have availability, or let's put you on a waiting list but get you connected to other services that might be able to help you in the interim until space comes available.
Okay. So you can start working with them right away, even though you may not be able to house them.
Well, in a small fashion, not in the sense that we'd be their case manager, but just providing information. I think is also helpful in the front end to be able to say what's available in the community that people who are homeless may not be aware of, and that's just due to limited availability to resources.
Right. Erin, anything you want to add to that?
Sure, I would love to add a couple of things. So I think one of the things that Mnpd touched on was that we're really a family-focused and family-oriented program. So just to give you some numbers behind that, last fiscal year we served over 450 children. So when we as a community are looking at the costs of shelter, we really need to view it as an opportunity and an investment in the Maui community's future youth. Because that's what it's all about, and we're trying really hard, especially with the children, to break that cycle of homelessness early and make sure that they are connected with resources available in the community, so they're growing up to be productive members and have the same opportunities that other children have.
And related to that, now the families that come in with children, the children are ages what? Very young through high school?
Yes.
Okay.
Some are born at the shelter.
Yeah.
We just
really?
had a mother that just delivered and brought her newborn baby down to the office.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And then the second thing I wanted to add is that the needs are so much greater than the resources we have available. So last month we had over 285 individuals, including 129 children on our central wait list alone. We had another 173 individuals on our west side wait list. And these are individuals, some of whom are at risk, meaning that they are in housing now, but it's looking like that housing opportunity will be gone shortly. But many of them are unsheltered, meaning they're living in their cars or in friends' garages or on the beach. And we as a community, I think, have a responsibility to have a discussion about what are we going to do with these hundreds of people and children that are living in situations that aren't healthy.
Somebody was telling me the other day that at some of our parks, as it gets to be dusk, going into the evening hours, they see these people just walking into the woods, and they just kind of disappear there until morning, and then they come out. And so we have all these folks that we don't see.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the average person never sees that happening. That to me is kind of the ultimate of a housing or of a homeless issue problem. To just go into the woods and spend the night there.
Mm-hmm.
We have to take a short break, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Aloha from Pacific Source, and thank you for your support over the years. Pacific Source has offered more of what builders and homeowners value most in building materials and cabinet design. We've done this by offering superior customer service and products, as well as by designing kitchens and baths that are intelligent and elegant while staying true to your vision and budget. Visit our showroom in Waikapu in central Maui, where we display a variety of cabinets as well as top-name appliances like Sub-Zero, Wolf, Viking, KitchenAid, and more. We display countertops, tile and wood flooring, and several brands of windows and doors, including Fleetwood multi-slides and La Cantina folding doors. Come in and talk to our designers about making your dreams become a reality. From concept to completion, we really believe our attention to detail and superior service are what sets us apart. Let us show you what we mean. We are a Pacific Source at 515 East Oahe Way in the Consolidated Base Yard in Waikapu, just off Waiko Road. Call us at 986-0380. That's 986-0380, or look us up online at packsource.com.
And we are back. This is Maui Nonprofit Notes, talking story with our CEO from Kahaleakaʻolo, Aaron Lowenthal, and her housing program director, Vanita O'Neill. We've been talking about how serious an issue this is, and I know that it's one of those things that it seems like every year, every month, every quarter, whatever we talk about, it's getting worse. But it seems like how much more worse? That's not even proper English. Mm-hmm. How much worse could it get? And it's like, I don't know. I mean, like I mentioned before the break, when people were telling me about people going into the woods, I'm thinking, I don't remember that ever being talked about. Mm-hmm. But where do these people live? Where do they come from? What's happened?
I think what's important is that we do see an increase in homelessness. And what we need to do is stop talking about the increase in homelessness and really put our money where our mouth is and start taking action. And there are a number of things that are going to have to happen for us to make progress on this issue. But in my opinion, the most critical need to show any progress is having more affordable rental housing built. And I think when we talk about affordability, it has many meanings, but I'm talking low income, below 50% of the area median income, and it needs to be rental housing, because owning a home is not a possibility for everyone, and we need to start with that base understanding.
Right. Not everyone should own a home,
right?
Because that's not their thing, is taking care of a house and
right.
and so forth. They need a place to live. And that's what we're talking about when we say that. Mm-hmm. Now, 50% or under, we're talking about a family income of, around $35,000, $40,000?
So it's dependent on the number of people in a household, okay. But generally, yes, around there.
Okay. So I think no matter who you talk to, whether it's county personnel or the general public or business people, everybody understands that's where the need is. But how do we move from everybody understanding that to doing something?
So what it's going to take is capital, and everyone doesn't like to talk about money, but that's just what it comes down to. And we are in a position, we've developed affordable housing. We have Hale Makana o Waiale. It houses over 750 individuals in the Maui County community, and it's a low-income property. Now, we were fortunate to have the County of Maui and the State of Hawaii as partners, and the County of Maui donated the land. And that is the single biggest way that they can incentivize developers to come in and do this, is to provide the land, because that's where the majority of the cost is to do projects of this size and nature.
Okay, and then?
So, and then these properties can be self-sustaining.
Right.
So even though we are capped at what we can charge in rent, it is enough to provide for maintenance, for landscaping, for leasing, management, and all of the things you need to keep a property running.
Essential services.
Correct.
Okay, so now, but in actually building the structure, are we looking at more county, state, federal grants to assist us in that project, or that part of the project?
Yes, absolutely. Now, there are a variety of construction sources we can look toward. So the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program is a program regulated by the IRS, and it incentivizes private capital, which is huge, so we don't have to rely so heavily on public financing. So that is a great, untapped source for Maui County to develop affordable housing.
And I think we had one of those built in the last couple of years.
No,
No?
I'm not. Maybe
Okay.
maybe so.
Okay.
Halemakana Waiale is a low income housing tax
Right.
credit project.
Okay, well, I was thinking of, what is it, Emmy Akina? I think came out, well, it had a lot of tax credits
Right.
involved with the construction of it, but
Yep,
it,
that could be. I don't
Okay.
know how the construction financing
Okay.
worked. But it's a great vehicle to use. And then of course HUD provides they're called home funds to develop low income housing properties, and that's another great source that the county can look toward. But it will also take some, the county to have some skin in the game, and the state of Hawaii likewise.
and it's the rental. Now, there's discussion always when they talk about building rental housing for people. Where should it be built? And of course, the NIMBY thing comes into play, not in my backyard. But isn't it true that it's going to be much more successful if it's close to an area where there's jobs and schools and everything is available to them than if you build it out in the middle of nowhere where there's nothing on the land, but so it's easy to do, but then they have to get to all this other source or things like where they're going to work and so forth.
Right.
Building something out in the middle of nowhere and having them
Right.
drive 20 miles to work is not the answer for
Right.
a low-income
Absolutely,
person.
especially since many don't have access to reliable vehicles and they're using our public transportation system. So one of the hats I've put myself in is to educate the community about what it means to have a low-income rental housing project in your neighborhood. I always feel safe at Halemakana. I'm there on weekends. I'm there late at nights. These are good, hardworking, community members. So I think some of it is just this base fear, and we need to meet that with the reality of what it really looks like and who these individuals are. And they're our friends and neighbors and family members. They are not scary and dangerous.
Right. And they have their own sense of fear at what they're going through. Not wanting to cause trouble or attention to themselves. They just need to get, at some point, they find they need to get through these programs. They need to learn what the programs are offering to them and be able to move forward. And in some respect, and not saying they're rushing through it, but the sooner they get through that, the sooner they're ready to go back out and hope. For many, it's starting all over again. Comments?
If I had anything to add, it would just be more of what Aaron was saying in terms of helping people, what I feel on a cellular level, and being able to not just educate, but also figure out what can I do individually? How can I help to decrease the likeliness of homelessness in my backyard? If that means you have properties available for rent, are we charging in a rate that is beyond what is affordable? And those are just some of the questions we can ask for ourselves. I think it is necessary for us to be educated on this process and figure out how some of our own decisions are affecting this greater problem.
Right. As we've seen in the last 8 months or so, rental housing, just the cost of it has skyrocketed. And is that fair? I don't know. Is it okay for the community? Obviously, it's not, because we don't have folks in those kinds of income brackets to be able to afford that. And you might be able to pay that for a while, but at some point, as a family, you have to sit down and say, "No, where's our money going?"
Yes.
You've got some fundraisers coming up.
We do. So this is always an exciting time of the year. It's back to school, and then fall comes, and we have Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. But most immediately, we have the Maui County Fair. So beginning this Thursday, Kaiser has been gracious enough to allow us to use their parking lot to sell parking, and we as a fundraising opportunity. So I encourage you, if you are going to the Maui County Fair, to park at the Kaiser parking lot, and you can feel good about where your $5 parking fee is going.
Now that's the Kaiser lot right across from the police station?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so the closest one to the fields. Okay.
And then later next month, wonderful Chef Ralph and Chef Daniel of Soup to Nuts is hosting a benefit dinner for Kahaleakiola, and that'll take place on October 29th and October 30th. It's a one-time seating at 6 p.m., and it's $38 per person, and it's a 4-course meal. And I have had many opportunities to eat at Soup to Nuts, and it's always phenomenal.
Right.
So I encourage everyone to head down there.
Right, and it's a
toward that.
small facility. What is it, 8-10 tables?
Yeah, something like
So-
that. Very
so-
homey, very
yeah.
quaint.
Right, very comfortable for people to just grab some friends and
Right.
go over there.
And they are just, wonderful community members. They're very involved with Kaho'olave. They host and are part of our Wailuku Rotary Club, and they're always looking for opportunities to give back to the community. So I just love supporting small businesses like that.
Terrific. Okay.
And then the
Next.
last thing I want to mention is the week of November 15th is Homelessness and Hunger Awareness Week. So there will be a whole slew of opportunities to get involved in this very, very important issue during that week. And it's going to be kicked off by the Maui County Mayor on Monday, November 16th with a proclamation signing.
Very good.
So more info to come.
Very good. We'll hear more about that. Well, thank you both for coming today. It's the fastest half hour on radio. But I think you put out some very important information that may help some people. If nothing, well, I shouldn't say if nothing else. That's not the best way to approach it. But for someone who doesn't know about your programs, those of you out there listening, if you know someone that they could help, let those folks know to go see Vanita and talk about what can you do for me? How can you help me get past this time in our life? And that's what we're talking about. Very good. Thanks,
Thank
Vanita.
you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you
you
so
for
much.
joining us. Appreciate it. You can get a hold of them by calling
242-7600 or visiting our website at www.khako.org.
Wonderful. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to shift gears now, and we're going to talk about education. I think, aren't we?
Yes,
I hope.
absolutely.
I certainly hope. Okay. We've got Betsy Gunderson, who is the head of school for St. Anthony's right here in Lower Maine. And no, St. Anthony's is not a ghost town.
Absolutely not. We're thriving and we are planning for the future.
It's been a few years since that all took place. And for the most part, I think everything I've heard has been really great about what's going on over there. And maybe you guys kind of had to go through that to see a future. You
Well,
think?
I absolutely think so. I've only been this is my third year at St. Anthony's Junior Senior High School, and I came from Honolulu, and but I had taught here back in late 70s and late 80s, and I always loved being here. And my dad's from Maui, so I always wanted to get back to Maui. So I had this opportunity, and basically what happened is the board hit a crisis and they had to figure stuff out, and they have. They're the most amazing board I've ever worked with. Many of them are graduates. They're totally invested heart-wise in the school, and we have had a whole bunch of angels come out of the woodwork to help us. And if you know our kids, that's why. It's an amazing group of students who thrive and do things every day, and they talk about things like homelessness. They want to make a difference in the community, and they're just anxious to get out there and give back. And of course, coming from Hawaii, we want to keep our youth home.
Right.
So we want to keep them on Maui, and we want to, take advantage of what they've learned. And maybe they'll go away for college or not, because we've got a great school system here. But hopefully they'll come back to reside and be the citizens that can really vote for the programs and sustain the programs that are needed to help everyone.
Right. Understand what's needed. That's the great part.
Yep.
Now, what kind of enrollment have you got in the junior and senior high school?
Well, right now we're at about 145, and for those that know St. Anthony, that is on the low side. We're working to build up our enrollment, but we have embarked on something called the Parish Education Committee, and that is where the whole school, everyone thinks we're one school, but we're not. Where the high school, junior senior high school, is actually part of the diocese, and so the bishop is our boss, and then the grade school and the pre-K are part of the parish. So we're really looking at kind of a womb to tomb, and there's a graveyard across the street, a womb to tomb experience where we can be that one community that I think a lot of people think we are. But also if we band together and work together, which we're very in deep conversation about, we can also be good stewards of all the resources that we have. And that school has placed, I I have students who are the fourth generation in the school. So there is this huge legacy on Maui.
Right.
And, board members who've sent their children to us and work hard every day just trying to help us sustain. But what's happened in Catholic schools is that, in the day when I went to a Catholic school in Honolulu, we had the sisters. And so, my tuition, was $300. And I remember I could babysit and earn a third of it at 50 cents an hour. Granted, hamburger was 3 pounds for $1 then.
Oh,
so
we won't go back to
I'm
that.
probably dating myself. But it's the same thing on Maui. The school was founded, a lot of the parents were in the sugar industry. They're not wealthy people, but they're very good people who give back. The generosity here has just blown me away. The volunteerism in Honolulu, I'm not dissing Honolulu, but people write checks. Here they come and they work.
Yeah.
They help. And the first time that happened to me, I was just stunned. So these are the kinds of people that the school produces. These are their parents and their grandparents. And we're trying to do everything we possibly can from a business standpoint to really make it affordable for all our students. And we've got tremendous support from the parish. And so that's basically what we're looking at, how to really create our niche in this market, how to make it affordable, and how to keep producing the great alums that we have for generations, 165 years.
Right. Yeah,
So,
that's quite a legacy. Now, in the various programs, I know before the show started, you were talking about robotics and some other things, and it's like St. Anthony has robotics.
Oh yeah, we went to that.
St. Anthony has a media program. Give us a little insight because that used to be for the big schools.
Right.
So tell us how you got all this going.
This is the most exciting part. Last year, we hired a gentleman who happened to be here from the mainland, and he'd been working with robotics, and he started a robotics program, and I created a schedule where kids could take robotics classes, and we've been very blessed with a number of grants, and so we just started and knocked the socks off because I ended up with 3 classes of 7th and 8th graders. I had 2 FTC First Tech Challenge teams, and then we had this first FRC First. I don't know what the R is for, but anyway, the big bot.
Okay.
And so the big bot went to the World Finals, and I went with them to St. Louis. I couldn't believe it, and they got the Rookie All-Star Award, but the thing with that is that the kids do the work. So the kids did everything. The teachers facilitate, and that's the way education is going. That it's not that, to use the term sage on the stage anymore. The kids want to be engaged. They want to have a part in their education, and they're going into a world where their jobs are changing radically every day. We don't know what future they will have. As a teacher, it's very humbling. It used to be, we could impart all the information there was in the world, but now it's, we only need the phone, and you just go on the phone and look us up. So what can we do as educators to empower them? Well, we've had a lot of people with some real vision, and we talk 21st century and all of that, but what it is about student engagement, helping them use the technology tools that are out there to have an impact on the world. And that's the bottom line. So this robotics, they love the hands-on, but they have to strategize. They created a business plan. When they won the Rookie All-Star Challenge in Honolulu, they had, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks to earn the money to go to St. Louis. And we had 12 kids go, and one of the boys was from Japan, and so we got a big donation from his father's company. But then they went out they canvassed the neighborhood, and they got lots and lots of other donations. And so one of the students had never been off island in her life, if you can imagine. And her first time off island was to go to Honolulu for the competition, and then we took her to St. Louis. And she won some award for the 3-ring binder that she created, because they have to They really have a business plan. They have to promote themselves. It's more than the robot. So Augustin Education Foundation has come in to help us. MEDB came in to help us. We've had HAI funding from HAIS. And then part of the other funding is for the Communication and Media Lab. One of our board members actually worked in Hollywood. She and her husband, they produced a film. But she had this dream to really give our kids that opportunity, because video and communications is huge in the world. I mean, look at this setup. So they had a dream, and we've set out to get lots and lots of grants, and we're waiting for the permits now. And hopefully that will happen. But meanwhile, the kids, not wanting to be held back, got together with a teacher who's also the bandmaster, and they created their own little mini cam lab.
And we're going to talk more about that when
Okay.
we come back from our break.
Thank you.
Aloha from Pacific Source, and thank you for your support over the years. Pacific Source has offered more of what builders and homeowners value most in building materials and cabinet design. We've done this by offering superior customer service and products, as well as by designing kitchens and baths that are intelligent and elegant while staying true to your vision and budget. Visit our showroom in Waikapu in central Maui, where we display a variety of cabinets as well as top-name appliances like Sub-Zero, Wolf, Viking, KitchenAid, and more. We display countertops, tile and wood flooring, and several brands of windows and doors, including Fleetwood multi-slides and La Cantina folding doors. Come in and talk to our designers about making your dreams become a reality. From concept to completion, we really believe our attention to detail and superior service are what sets us apart. Let us show you what we mean. We are a Pacific Source at 515 East Oahe Way in the Consolidated Base Yard in Waikapu, just off Waiko Road. Call us at 986-0380. That's 986-0380, or look us up online at packsource.com.
And we are back, and we're talking story with Betsy Gunderson, who is the head of school for St. Anthony Junior Senior High School, right down here on Lower Main Street.
Yep.
Why do I always want to say Main Avenue?
No, Lower Main, right down the hill.
I know my office is on Main Street, and it's like I don't know. I keep wanting to say Avenue. Anyway, so what you're doing over there is exciting, and I know that you talked about in the school, the junior senior high school. You've got 145 students, and that's grades what, 7 through 12?
7 through 12, that's correct.
Okay, so I mean that's just a nice size as far as I'm concerned. But then I like small. I like the hands-on feeling that I'm one of a small group of people, and I'm kind of feeling through some of these things that you're doing that works well.
Absolutely. It might work well for the parents. Sometimes the kids don't want us to know all they're into, but we can definitely personalize education for them. You know, we have a wide variety of students with different learning styles. We are a college prep institution, and so that is our goal.
Excuse me, but I think I saw someplace where 90% of your graduates go on to college.
Actually 99.9.
99.9. You need to change your website.
I know we do. We do. The last 15 years, everyone has been accepted into further education. We had one exception where the gentleman went into his an apprenticeship company with his father.
Gotcha.
It was a family business, but last year, one of our graduates was accepted with a full ride into the University of Hawaii, and he took it because he's always wanted to be a doctor on Maui. And so he was given automatic acceptance into the John A. Burns School of Medicine.
Wow.
And he was an amazing child. I mean, and he was on my robotics team, and he was the PR guy. So with robotics, it's not just about the robot. It's not just building the gizmo. These kids have to work together. They have to be able to communicate effectively to each other and to those that they are talking to about their business plan. They have to problem solve, and it all translates into some of these what we call 21st century competencies, where they can be problem solvers, great communicators, and critical thinkers. And it excites them. They're actually, when we went to St. Louis, one of the founders, Dean Kamen, who is the inventor of the Segway.
Yeah.
And he was very inspirational. He talked about this is your future. This is where you have to work with each other. No longer can you sit in a row and just take in information. You have to interact with your education. You can't just be passive. And the world of engineering is just growing. I spoke to my daughter-in-law, who's a mechanical engineer, and she said her last 2 years at the university, they worked in groups. They had to problem solve in groups. And she works for Boeing, and she works in a group. So cooperative learning, at its best. And so it really is the life skills that come out of it. It's more than the little gizmo. But they do learn the technology tools to support it. One of our graduates blessed us with a huge donation. I don't know if you remember Titan Gilroy coming to Maui, and he is a St. Anthony graduate, but he was a kid who it was his last chance, and the brothers took him in. He worked hard. He went off, and he's since become successful, but he hasn't forgotten us. He gave us 5 all-in-one computers that can host with all the CAD software on it, and from one of his sponsors. And these kids are learning AutoCAD. They're doing designing things, and it doesn't have to be robots. It can be, if a child is interested in fashion, she can design the fashion right there on the computer. So they're learning to use these tools to further what it is they need to know. Now, the Communication and Media Lab is huge. It will give them the chance to do video, to run a radio show. Maybe you can use it sometime, and the kids can run it for you. And but it will give them all these skills. And there's a lot of companies who actually have their own video groups to promote themselves now. So today, Miko just blessed us with a $10,000 grant towards this project, and we're waiting for our permitting to come through. But meanwhile, the students got together with the teacher, and they created their own little mini cam lab in spite of waiting for permits. And when I watched some of their products today, one little girl wanted to find out about homelessness. This is a little 8th grader, and with a lot of bargaining with the teacher, they wanted to do a social experiment, and they dressed a boy as a homeless person, and then they stood back and they took pictures and created a video, and he was absolutely invisible. And when I was talking to them about it, it was just profound. So they're going to be the kids, hopefully, that will help with these projects and be the ones that can come in support of the things like Erin does and help them in the future. Yeah.
So that must have been a really rude awakening to some of these kids to have this kid ignored.
It was. I don't think they expected that. I think they expected that people were going to toss them money, which they had agreed to give back. They weren't going to keep the money. But he said one person did come up and yell at them and scold them for being on the street. So he was just sitting I think it was up in Pukalani, I think near Foodland, just sitting there, and he had a sign, homeless, need help or something. And most people just walked away, or a couple people looked at him and said, I don't have any money. And he just sat there.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. So that you don't get that in a textbook.
Right.
And it was, like I said, the teacher hesitated, but then after a lot of talking about how to do it responsibly, he let them go. And that's what our teachers need to do. They need to help them fly. And so this whole 21st century education is really about that. It's about the kids. They've got everything they need to know on their phone, but they need to know ethics. They need to communicate. They need to bargain with people. They need to live in a world that's, changing, be very flexible.
Right.
And that's not always tied to English, social studies, religion, blah, blah, blah,
I think the thing that impresses me the most is how we've brought things that you in the past would not have had access to except in college is now in the high school level.
Oh, absolutely.
Because by the time you hit high school, either you know all your basics or you don't.
Right.
And there's obviously classes they can take if they don't have all that, but it has to go beyond that, or it's irrelevant.
Exactly. And we we visited with a number of our graduates last year, and they're telling us that for math and primarily for math, they go into a lab and they take their test online. And I'm thinking, okay, we need to start looking about practicing that. and they've got the writing down pat, and they know how to do the PowerPoint. This year, our kids are doing senior projects. We had a pilot last year, but we're going to do it this year. And they have to make a difference, but they have to know how to write. They know how to present. So they're going to hopefully be well armed when they go to college. But college is already going vastly faster,
right,
than you and I could probably imagine.
That's right. When
hamburger was £3 for $1.
Yeah. And I think that's a very important part. What you just said there was that at this point you have to know how to use all those skills that you've learned.
Right.
Whereas before it was something, I learned that.
Right.
File it back in the back of the head somewhere, and when I need it, it'll be there.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Or
you would have one job for your whole life.
That's true.
That doesn't happen anymore.
That's true.
Yeah.
And even to get a job, you've got to be above the pack.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So now, with all these folks going on to higher education, and we do want them back here, what kind of jobs or careers attract them back here?
Well, hopefully those things in the high-tech industry. When I recently attended an MEDB training for STEMworks, because we put in a
Tell us what STEMworks.
STEMworks is it's a program that MEDB funds, Maui Education Development Board, and they have done a phenomenal job of getting technology and engineering and 21st century skills into schools. Well, recently they wrote a grant in which the grant insisted that you have one private school. And so we started a STEMworks after-school program where our kids will go up to actually Maui Waina and are working with some of the teachers there, but we now have access to a lot of the technology programs and everything. Well, MEDB also has a component about jobs. And one of the biggest jobs that seems to be opening up is in the geospatial industry. And these kids are going to be doing this geospatial stuff. And we were actually talking at this training about, it's this gizmo where you put this pin on and then you can write stuff. Well, we had to come up with a plan to do some community service. And so my two teachers were talking, we could help Sister Rosalani do her Kupuna Kokua program where she's going to make sure that the kupuna aren't homeless. Feeds right into what Aaron was saying. But we can map it on this program, and we can have a drop-down menu that tells you who they are and where they are and who visited them last. And, my head is just spinning. So that's the kind of things that kids can get into to support. And, they want to be relevant. They want to have their education mean something. It's not just, is this going to be on the test anymore?
Yeah, right.
And so we're in a big transition. I think all of education is in a huge transition. And it's hard because sometimes parents believe that, it was good enough for me. And, when you're in this business, for as long as I have, you can see it changing. Even our dentists have changed their practice. So why not education? And so it really is, we hope they find things like, take the geospatial. They could work for HCNS in the mapping place where they map out things. HCNS has drones now. So they could be the ones flying the drones. They could be working in a company that, let's say they're in graphic arts, and they could be using software that creates posters and promotes the company, and they could do ads. Our kids are doing, actually one group did a 30-second community service ad about bullying that just, catches you. So that's part of that critical thinking that they have to do. They can't just do an hour video and cut and paste it. They have to get their message down to 30 seconds. And that's high rigor. And so we're trying to teach them that level of rigor, that level of self-efficacy when they see what they can do. Nothing is more proud than to watch a kid do their senior project and you're in awe, because this is the child that's not necessarily an A child that's up there talking to an audience and defending something that he or she is passionate about. And, so that's where education is going. That's what keeps it exciting to me.
And it's that passion that's 3/4 of the effort.
Exactly. They talk about what makes kids successful in college, and it's not the SAT score. The ACT actually did a study, and it was their extracurriculars, because that's their passion. And if you can hook them up to their passion, they will take off.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is just awesome, and so exciting to hear from the folks at St. Anthony, and from you, Betsy.
Thank you.
This last 3 years have been pretty exciting for you.
Oh, absolutely. It's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Did you have any idea when you came over here that all this was possible?
Yes, because I was on 2 of their accreditation teams.
Ah.
So I knew what I was getting into. I knew some of the people. And, again, Maui is so beautiful. The kids are wonderful. And so I knew there would be challenges, and I was ready for that. But again, I couldn't do it without my board and without all the angels that have been helping us. I mean, we've got our own annual dinner auction coming up, where we try to earn money to support kids. We have about 58% of our kids on tuition assistance, and they're not rich, but oh my gosh, if we can just give them a chance, they're
Right.
just amazing.
That's wonderful. Boy, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
We're so glad to have you on here today, and we got to have you back. I mean,
Okay,
we gotta-
sure, I'll bring kids.
I was going to say, and bring 1 or 2 of these kids that we've been talking about, because that's just, I mean, it's just, if I can't say enough about it. I
Oh,
mean,
thank
it's just, it's wonderful to hear, and I feel like I'm in that generation where time kind of stood still there for a little while,
Yep.
and now it's catching it up. It's
Yep.
fast forward time, and so we've got to keep up with what's going on.
Absolutely, and if you need help with anything, ask a kid.
That's exactly right.
You got to give up the power.
Right, that's right. Okay, thanks, Betsy.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, Maui Nonprofit Notes is sponsored as a community service by Pacific Source, the builder's choice. Give Paul and his staff a call at 986-0380 or stop by their showroom on the Waikupu Base Yard on East Oahe Way to see how they can help you with your building project. The Maui Nonprofit Directors Association's mission is to provide personal and professional support to nonprofit executive directors, their organizations, and the community of Maui. Please visit our website at www.mauinonprofit.org for a list of member agencies. And if you see an agency listed there that you'd like to find out more about, go to their website and check them out. Today we visited with folks from Kahaleaka'ola, Aaron Lowenthal and Vanita O'Neill, talking about the homeless and what they're doing working with them. We got an update from Betsy Gunderson, head of school at St. Anthony's Junior and Senior High School. And I learned so much about what they're doing. It's just incredible. If you heard anything today that makes you want to get involved with one of these agencies, give them a call or check out their websites. Mahalo for tuning in. Don't forget to join us again next week right here on Wednesday at noon on KAOI Radio, 1110 AM, 96.7 FM, and 96.5 FM on the West Side, when we'll be featuring representatives of 2 other member agencies of the Maui Nonprofit Directors Association. Until then, I'm Susie Tiemann, Executive Director of Lokahi Pacific, and the host for Maui Nonprofit Notes. I want to again give a special shout out to Paul and his staff. 5 years of sponsoring this radio show. Fabulous. Thank you so much. And we want to thank you all for joining us today. Have a great week, everybody. Aloha.